Zillow and Compass can't hide behind the statement that what they're doing is best for the consumer. It's not. It's based on trying to do what's best for Zillow and Compass and their shareholders and make a profit, which is okay, but don't hide behind an ulterior purpose of being best for the consumer. Every decision is made considering what's best for the agent and the brokerage, not just the brokerage. And it makes a big difference in how it turns out at the end of the day for everybody. So we're, Judson told me when I first came here, we want to make money with you, not off to you.
The real estate landscape is shifting from commission changes to boutique brokerages outmaneuvering industry giants. It feels like the rules are being rewritten in real time. In this episode, Mark, Robert, and Natasha have the honest after-the-meeting conversation that never makes the headlines. If you're trying to make sense of the chaos in Metro Atlanta and want to know where the industry is headed, this is your front row seat. This is Mark, Robert, and Natasha.
Welcome to AC Pro Talk. My name is Natasha Roos-Kranz, Chief Business Development Officer for Atlanta Communities. And I'm here with Mark Hall, President
Good morning.
of
Good
Atlanta
morning.
Communities.
Thank you.
And Robert Williamson, Vice President of Atlanta Communities.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. So we've got some things to discuss today. What's happening within the industry?
Well,
Okay. Some crazy news out.
we got a few hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
No. Okay. All right. Well, just check it.
Well, I think before we really kind of jump into it all, how about we discuss a little bit about you guys? Tell me about yourselves in your world. When did you get into real estate?
Well, let's see. I got out of the Marine Corps in 1993 and became a mortgage loan officer and did that until I was licensed in 1996, and then worked for a builder for a year, and then came to work at what's now Atlanta Communities in 1997. So if my math is right, this is my 29th year, or will be when my anniversary date is here. So I've been in real estate a long time, but I've been here a long time. And the reason was because when I left the builder world, everybody said, aren't you going to go into a more traditional type of brokerage instead of a RE/MAX system? And I said, I think I'm better off going into where I want to be as opposed to a stepping stone. And I never left.
You never left?
I never left.
Almost 30 years.
It's funny that at that time, RE/MAX was not considered a traditional brokerage.
It was not.
Because now I would say RE/MAX is pretty much considered a traditional brokerage. So maybe RE/MAX kind of changed the standard of what a traditional brokerage was.
I think so. Yeah. It used to be a bunch of old men with their heads bent down over their paperwork. And if you said anything to them, they would look up and they'd say, what do you want? I'm busy, and that's kind of how the whole thing. And then eventually Keller Williams came into the Atlanta market and they said, hey, how you doing? And everything. And all the curmudgeons thought, wow, these people actually talk to each other and celebrate each other. So I'm going to go over there.
Maybe we need to change that. Maybe the whole rib is not a 50-50 split.
Maybe not. Yep.
So, well, it's interesting you mentioned you started in building, because that's how I started, of course, as a home builder in business with my dad in Texas, and got my real estate license in the mid-'80s, I think, 85 or 86. But I really just used it for our own purposes of buying and selling real estate, and moved to Atlanta in the 90s, early 90s, and actually let my broker license lapse for a while. And then I had to go back around 99 or 2000 and retake the test. And I'm like, this is kind of difficult. But luckily I passed it. So I've had the brokerage license since around 2000, 1999, 2000, or something like that. The building business went to a secondary position in the 2008, 9, 10 building meltdown. And I started, for the first time in my life, depending on real estate to make a living. And that went pretty well for me until 2015. That's when I got an opportunity to join Atlanta Communities on staff. So 11 years ago.
And we're glad you did.
Yeah, thank you. Me too. It's been one of the best things that career moves I've ever made. So it's been very interesting. So
now I'm curious.
It continues to be every day.
It never gets old.
So I'm curious, who has the oldest license number, real estate license number?
I'm 182-741.
176946.
You trumped me.
Yeah.
Months, probably.
You want my nerd's number too? I do that too. Yeah. No fingerprints though. No fingerprints. Right. Yeah.
So back then, we're really talking, I got into business 25 years ago, and we're talking about 30 years for you gentlemen. Things have changed, and it's just kind of morphed. As you were saying, RE/MAX back then was the leader.
For sure.
The yard. It was a whole different way of thinking about real estate and what a brokerage looked like. And fast forward now to today. There's so much going on in the news. There's so much happening with, acquisitions. Let's talk about that.
As we were discussing off camera before we started rolling the tape, it's always about money. And this is another one of those situations where it is about money. And I read an article the other day from 1000 Watt, and they were talking about how that in all these acquisitions, the one thing that they really don't ever pay attention to is the agents and also to the consumer. And I find that to be very interesting because there's a lot of truth to that. They have rarely come out and said, well, we're doing this to benefit our agents, or we're doing this to benefit buyers and sellers. They may couch that, but it's not real. Berkshire Hathaway, when one of the most striking videos I remember was, this was after Berkshire Hathaway acquired Prudential Georgia Realty. And there was a guy, it was obviously, he was in a big city. He's sitting at a desk, and it was a kind of a raw video. And the video has these skyscrapers in the background. So you can tell he's up on a high floor, and he was talking about Atlanta real estate. And I thought, I'm not sure you know a whole lot about Atlanta real estate except for the data, because you live in Minnesota. Yeah. In the Twin Cities. It didn't make sense to me. And it still doesn't really.
Yeah. A theme of this, I think, is these national companies are buying each other or merging with each other, but real estate is local. Our transactions are local. We're doing business with friends, family, newcomers to our community. And that is what has left out a lot of these out of the conversation, I think, with a lot of the mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah, and when we, this is another thing that I occasionally amuse myself with, which is the fact that, we're a big player in Atlanta real estate, and not only in Atlanta real estate, I'm talking about nationally as well. And that's a big deal. And to be an independent and still have that that small town family community type feel is a big deal. Yeah.
Well, on the theme of changes since we've been in the business, and nobody wants to hear about the hardships of what it was like back then, but really the relationship with the client has not changed that much from when I helped someone find a home back in the 80s in Texas till now. You develop a relationship, you reach an agreement to work together, and then you start spending time together looking at homes and picking out the one that suits them best and help them find a loan. That's the same description of what our agents do every day right now. Not just our agents, all agents. That's your job. What's changed is the tools that are available to you. And it's just gotten better and better and easier in a lot of ways. And it's going to, I think, with the inventions and developments that are coming online now, it's going to get even more advanced and easier for the agent. But that relationship with the client is going to stay the same.
I agree. Yeah.
It reminds me, if you guys recall, about 10 years ago when the iBuyer model came out, right?
Yeah.
And
has it really been 10 years?
About 10 years. If you can.
I can't.
And agents started panicking. Gosh, are these iBuyers going to come in and kind of put us out of business? Is this going to be the end of real estate agents? And it wasn't, because that relationship, to your point, it's not a simple, let's do this online. You press a few buttons and bam, the house is sold. We're set and ready to go. It is about relationships, psychology. And I just don't believe AI. I don't believe any of the programs that are out there are capable of handling that. It's us. It's the humans. It's that human nature part that's so important.
No, I agree. I mean, it's going to continue to morph and change, but there were a lot of things that came out that had a very short shelf life. I used to joke that when I retired, it's not ever going to happen, but when I did, I would move to some place where it was warm and tropical, and I would have these technology offerings, and then I would do seminars, and agents would flock to the seminars, and then they would sign up for whatever it was that I was selling. And, 18 to 24 months later, they'd say, what is that $35 a month credit card charge? Because it would have already passed, except they were still paying for it. Kind of like a health club membership.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Because they all say, technologists, it's very interesting about technology. Technology doesn't ever, Steve Jobs would probably not be happy with where technology's gone, because he believed that technology would ultimately bring people closer together. And what we've actually seen, and maybe that's influenced by COVID, is that people get pushed further and further back away from each other. But technology was supposed to bring us all together, to give us more time to do this. And instead, it just hasn't. In fact, you can be, the three of us could be sitting here not talking, and all of us be on our phones. And,
Right. Or we could have done this by Zoom.
We could have. Yeah. And is that better, more efficient? Some things that are better or more efficient are not necessarily the best. Again, we're human creatures that are designed to be interacting with each other. And I still think that's the biggest part we got to do. And that, I don't think it's replaceable, or at least not yet.
Yeah, not yet. I think when you say replaceable, maybe these tools are going to make it easier for certain people to handle transactions themselves. Because, coming from the builder world, I didn't always need a real estate agent to represent me as a seller. And maybe these tools are going to enable some people that feel comfortable doing a transaction on their own. So we might see an increase in for sale by owners or unrepresented buyers. Not to say it's always the wisest thing for them to do, but with AI might enable it more.
It may. And so when I was I worked for Torrey Homes, which is now part of D.R. Horton Homes. And I used to joke about that too, that the salesman, not the salesman and not the real estate side, but construction side, they had this idea that if we left a stack of contracts on the kitchen countertop, that people would just walk in there and write up their own contract. They wanted the product so bad. Yeah, it never happened. Yeah, it never happened. So who knows?
Right. You mentioned retirement. I got yesterday. We're old enough to retire if we wanted to, but we don't want to. But I had an errand to run at Costco yesterday, and while I was in there waiting for my service to be taken care of, I went ahead and acted retired and got a $1.50 hot dog and enjoed it. And then I went back to work.
Yeah, that's right.
What else can I do?
Absolutely.
$1.50.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's the secret to long life. Right.
So thinking of, and I'm going to name drop here because I think it's been all over in the news. It's been Compass is just acquiring. They are out there just kind of gobbling up all of these brokerages. How do you feel that that's going to impact the market?
Well, at the risk of being a target of a particular person, that would be the CEO of Compass and the founder of Compass. The bottom line is they buy market share, and they have bought market share, and that's how they've achieved what they've achieved. There has not been, to my knowledge, anywhere in the country except for a few named giant teams that are fleeing one bad brokerage to go to a really good brokerage, by the way. And they really haven't organically gotten agents to migrate to them. They've bought other companies. And when you think about the difference in the migratory habits of real estate professionals, when you buy something, I think of it as a subscription service. And one of the things that they do is if they don't like what they get, then they can unsubscribe, meaning they can move elsewhere. And when you're buying brokerages, because of the number of people they have or any of those things, all the people can walk out the door any minute because they're independent contractors. So I'm not sure the strategy. There is a strategy and an end game to it, but let's talk about the private listing networks and stuff. Well, I'm assuming that they know that was tried not on the scale they're talking about because of what's now the advancements in technology, but many, many years ago, KW did the same thing, right? They have their private listing network, and I can't remember the software at that point. I saw Klein. I know who was part of that group. So they had this private listing network, and it was from KW franchise operators, and they had private listings, and it didn't work, which is why we don't have that today. Right. You know, so history is not on the side of hiding inventory from consumers.
Yeah, it seems like a big step backwards to go that way. And I'll say this: there's nothing wrong with companies being for-profit companies.
Sure,
we all are. We're in this business to provide for families and make money, and nothing. I'm a big on free enterprise.
Me too.
But Zillow and Compass can't hide behind the statement that what they're doing is best for the consumer. It's not. It's based on trying to do what's best for Zillow and Compass and their shareholders and make a profit, which is okay, but don't hide behind an ulterior purpose of being best for the consumer. Best for the consumer on both sides of the transaction is transparency and homes being available to anyone who's interested in buying them.
Well, we've joked that, if when did a seller say, oh, by the way, I want you to hide it and keep it amongst your... No seller says that. The only way they're agreeable to that, now I'm sure the Compass would have a different take on that, but I just don't see, are there circumstances where private listings work? Absolutely. Illness in the family, special reasons why it can't be shown at different times, et cetera, or celebrity status, or any of those things. Those are reasons that are valid, but it's not ubiquitous to every property that's out there. It's just not.
You don't need to put the MLSs out of business to have those exceptions, right?
Right. And it's, I'm just not sure how that strategy plays out. And, the good news is it's going to play out in free enterprise and in the marketplace. And if you can't win in the marketplace, what do? You go to court, and they are in lawsuits when you're spending other people's money, shareholder money, et cetera, for lawsuits or a private equity firm money and stuff. I guess you don't care. Most companies are like, I don't want to spend $1 on a lawsuit ever.
I'm a numbers guy. I like to crunch numbers and stuff. So when Compass closed on all their big acquisitions, I went in and said, well, how big are they? And I'm just looking at Atlanta and Georgia, basically. So I took every company in FMLS, put it on a spreadsheet, and then went through and marked the ones that are now under Compass's umbrella. And it's a 18 to 20% market share of what they control. It's a big number. It's the biggest of any one entity, but the rest of us are 80%. So why would they want to not show their listings and have potential buyers from another 80% of the market? And I guess in some other parts of the country, their market share might be bigger than here in Georgia. We're structured a little bit differently, but there's still a lot of realtors out there that are not under Compass's umbrella.
Well, that's like when you look at the online buyer, still that's a rarely a fairly small percentage of actual buyers. So we have 80% of the real estate professionals competing for 20% of the business against the other 80% of the people. I mean, none of it makes sense. And Zillow has monetized that partly because for a long time, and I don't think people really understand how Zillow came to be and how it got to where it is. But initially, they marketed directly to consumers. Consumers then would come to real estate professionals and say, hey, I want to be on that Zillow thing. And then the practitioner would go to their brokerage and say, hey, my people are wanting to be on this Zillow thing. What about it? And brokerage would say, I don't know. We're in the MLS, et cetera. And so they kind of came through the back door because it was consumer driven that got us all on there before. And then they had all this web traffic, but it wasn't monetized. They sold ads. That was their whole thing. That was Rupert, right? Is that Rupert Murdoch? No, I guess that's realtor.com.
Yeah.
So they were trying to figure out how to monetize all that traffic because they weren't getting it through ad revenue. And then eventually that's how they started selling the leads back.
Realtors.
Yeah.
Selling the realtors' leads to other realtors.
Yes. Yes, that's definitely precise. Yeah. Yeah.
We kind of created our own.
Well, we did, but again, they were very savvy in how they did it because they made the consumer demand us to. So, for instance, if we use Compass as an example, if all the consumers in Metro Atlanta demanded that their listings be private, then at some point, I guess they'd all be private because the consumer is going to win that. But again, that's not what's happening,
No, and the consumers want to sell their house.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
To whoever wants to buy it.
Exactly.
Right. And can afford to buy it and qualify for it.
By the way, that complies with our fair housing laws.
It does.
Country also.
Yeah. And people, there is a benefit to being old. And one thing is, I remember, yes. Well, there's
I want to hear more
experience. Yeah. I remember as a kid growing up south of Atlanta in Hapeville, Hape, not Hate, where home of Chick-fil-A and all. And I remember when the city of Hapeville had no for sale signs in yards. And that was because of discrimination policies and block busting. This is 70s, early 70s. And, did we want to go back to that? I mean, the answer is no.
Yeah.
No, for any number of reasons. Fair housing being the number one.
Exactly.
Right.
And the number of, if that was successful and going back to that, the number of lawsuits skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going back to that. I don't know where everything is going to shake out exactly, but the system we have of MLSs and full information and rules where realtors follow the rules and put those listings into MLS, it's available for everybody. It works. It works well.
Yeah, there was a time probably very early on in my career after I joined what's now Atlanta Communities, where any question you had, pretty much you needed to go directly to the brokerage and to the brokers because you weren't really knowledgeable enough to make your own decisions. And now there's partly internet driven, there's peer-to-peer conversations. And so there is not as much, the industry is more fluid or open now because of that. And I'm not sure that's a good thing.
Yeah.
In terms of compliance with Georgia Real Estate Commission and license law and all these other things, because you're only as good as a person is that you ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Garbage in, garbage out.
All right.
Let's do that on Xbox all the time. The answers.
I'm only 25 years old. I just look older because that's aged me.
Mhm.
Yes. I'm like, stop.
Brokerage.
Call your broker. Call your broker.
So with these big box chains grabbing a hold, acquiring these other brokerages, how does it affect our agents? What do you foresee Atlanta Communities?
Well, one thing, there's a lot of sameness in going to work for some of these brokerages now. And when I say going to work, that's a misnomer already, right? Real estate agents, almost 99% of the business, they're independent contractors. They're not going to work for a brokerage. They're going to work at a brokerage or with a brokerage. We like to think of our agents as coming to work with us, and we're going to help them create the platform that they want their business to look like. And we'll provide the tools, meet them where they're at so they can run the business the way they want to, because they're independent contractors. I don't think that's the philosophy at all. The big boxes, if that's what we want to call those. I think there's a lot of sameness and business philosophy and behavior expected at those type of brokerages, instead of letting the independent contractor set their own course.
Right, as long as they're following license law and Georgia Real Estate Commission rules and regulations. And in our case, NAR Code of Ethics, because we're a realtor member. But you're right. I mean, you can only do so much with those people because they are independent contractors. They're not employees. You can't mandate things for them to do.
Can you make them work?
You cannot make them work. No matter what you say, no matter what you do.
I don't shtick about work,
Yeah.
Mark likes to remind our realtors that you've got to work.
You got to work, yeah.
This business.
And it's funny because as the industry has morphed over the years, they more and more brokerages really tell you how not to, that you can make money in real estate not selling real estate. I mean, that's just so counterintuitive to me, because the way you want to make money in real estate, help buyers buy and sellers sell. It's that part has not changed, at all.
And it won't change.
It won't change. Yeah.
I think that's one of the beauties of Atlanta Communities is when it first started as RE/MAX.
Yep.
For some of our agents may not know this story. It was kind of interesting. Judson Adamson, owner of the company, he was talking the other day. And even though I've been here at Atlanta Communities 9 years, the stories he was telling I'd never heard before. So it was just we got to get him on camera.
Well, yeah. Okay. Good luck with that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We got another 25 years, maybe.
Well, and with it, though, he was just kind of explaining the evolution of Atlanta Communities and where the humble beginnings started and how now we're at 7 offices and 2,200 agents. What do you think that growth is from? It's because we've kind of been that little hidden gem.
I think it has a lot to do with obviously word of mouth and our position in the marketplace, but that's fueled by the people that we have on our rosters. I mean, they go out and they do help buyers buy and sellers sell. And when they do it, hopefully some of anything that we've done for them is evident in that. And then they attract other people and people start looking at us. And it's been really organic up until this point. And I think that, that's part of what we want to be the alternative for everybody that's not sure if they wake up tomorrow, they're going to be at the same brokerage they were the day they went the day before. That's really going to make the difference.
Well, and I don't think all the acquired companies really know the future. We've seen some management changes locally from some brokers deciding to retire or maybe moving on to another opportunity. But I don't think the agent in the field really knows what the repercussion is of their brokerage being acquired by a Compass or by a real broker. Some uncertainty.
Yeah, we believe, this has been true as far back as I can remember. We are very servant leader based. We are very much a servant organization. We know who our customers are, and that is our real estate roster, are the people that care enough to hang their license with us. Those are the people that we support, and we do it every day, all day long. And that's kind of fundamentally different than it is with the rest of the companies out there. And I think that's exactly why we're where we are, because we hear all the time, I wish I'd have known this sooner. I wish I'd have done this sooner. I wish I had joined Atlanta Communities a long time ago, because there was a lot of misconception in the marketplace about the brokerage and how things worked, or, it can't really be like that. Well, you know what? I got to tell you, it is like that. It really is. Everything that you've ever heard that's good about Atlanta Communities is true.
Yeah. We have a very unique leadership philosophy. Every decision is made considering what's best for the agent and the brokerage, not just the brokerage. And it makes a big difference in how it turns out at the end of the day for everybody. So we're, Judson told me when I first came here, we want to make money with you, not off to you. And that's a big difference in philosophy from, I think, what some of the other brands offer.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm just not sure where that part of it is. And again, wherever you're at, I hope that it's good. And I hope that if you've been acquired, the company you work for has been acquired, that everything works out exactly the way. I mean, we want nothing but the best for everybody. And this is not a play on saying that, you should hang up your license. Okay, maybe you should hang up your license there and come here. But that would be disingenuous if I really didn't say that. But I mean, truthfully, we want you all to be happy, and we want professionals in the industry, and we want to raise the standards, and we want to have good professional transactions, whatever that means.
Eventually, Natasha, your question, how does that affect us? In some ways, we're not going to change who we are or our culture, and we're not for sale, and we don't plan on being acquired or merging with anyone. We're going to continue our same organic growth. But I think that growth, our plan might become more attractive to a larger number of agents as some of these changes take place.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're prepared.
And people will immediately, this has kind of been the catch-22 in the marketplace. Everybody thinks that the reason, and I'm talking about brokerage competition, thinks the reason people come here is because of our splits and our monthly fees. But the truth is, far from that. That may be the initial thing that they see as the difference, but most of them say, I'd gladly pay more if I came here, because one of the things that we do is take good care of them.
Yeah.
And we know our place.
We've got a great retention rate.
We do. Right.
With our producing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate this conversation, because I think it's important as this continues to develop, as we continue to kind of progress through 2026 and probably into 2027, we continue to have these conversations, helping agents to understand what all this change means. Because it's a new day. I mean, one thing that is always consistent is change.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, for the agent, our realtors out there meeting with clients and making their business plan work, these changes don't mean that much. Maybe in other parts of the country they do, but Georgia's been a little ahead of the game with some of the MLS rules, and the fact that our MLSs are not controlled by a local board of realtors. So basically, Mayor Call says just keep your head down and keep working, and it'll all be okay.
It will all be okay. And, that's one of the things where, people wonder what this means or that means. And there's an initial flurry of it. And, Alex Bonds, who is our Cartersville managing broker, Alex would say, so remember that commission lawsuit and how much just that's all anybody could talk about. And we were all trying to figure out, what does the future look like, and how are we going to do this, and how are we going to take compensation out of the multiple listing services and still be able to advertise properties and what the compensation was and stuff. And it's become a non-issue. We adapted, we improvised, and we overcame. And I think that that's exactly the strategy we're going to have. We did something that was different during all the changes, which was we come out and we talk about it, and we don't wait to see what other people are going to do. And we have that luxury because we're independent and because we make those decisions about whether or not we talk about it, as opposed to the other companies where they may want to talk about it, but they have to go up the ladder to whoever might say, I don't think so. Yeah. We
are local.
We are local. Very much so. I'm proud of it.
Two very interesting questions for both of you.
Okay.
I'm going to ask each of you individually.
Mm.
This is how we like to kind of close out each one of our shows. And so, Robert, what book, podcast, audio book even are you listening to?
So I read a lot in spurts, but mostly I read fiction, not business books or, and I don't listen to podcasts normally when I'm walking or exercising.
Except
I listen to music. Yeah, this one's.
Your favorite.
Exactly. Right. Quickly becoming that. Yes, thanks for
the.
So right now I'm reading a book by Geraldine Brooks, which is called March. And I'd already read a book by Geraldine that was called Horse. She writes historical fiction. So it's very interesting. She's a great storyteller. These are both placed around Civil War times. And she's telling a story of a man in the North who is drawn into the army and has to travel to the South and fight in the Civil War. And it's fascinating, but it's historic also. You really get placed in the lives of a lot of different characters and learn a lot about the things going on in that period. So that's what I'm reading.
I saw that in reverse. That was the movie Shenandoah, where the young boy put on a Confederate hat, and Union soldiers came through there and they captured him in the Shenandoah Valley, and they took him as a prisoner of war. And then his father, who was not for either side, was abstainer or whatever they were called at that point, and he and his family, because he had other sons, went to rescue him and get him out of the POW camp. Yeah, so yeah, it's very fascinating.
I mean, when you think about what this country's been through in that time period, it's startling. Really.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
so yeah. That's what I'm reading. I'll move on to something maybe sillier and less serious next, but
next round. But that's today's.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, Mark. How about?
Yeah, well, I'm hopefully going to get this right because I really pay it to somebody will suggest a book to me and I'll just go get it because just flop open your laptop and there's Amazon and you click on it and the next thing you know it shows up. Who did you see today? And I think that's the title of it. And it's written by a local minister here who's one of the big mega church pastors here in Atlanta. And it deals with, the whole book it's very biblically inspired, but it talks about seeing people genuinely and going out of your way to acknowledge people that you see. And I thought it was just, for what we do, it's just like, you go into the grocery store is a great example. So you go to the grocery store and you see the same cashier all the time, but you never really see the cashier. And so it's about stopping and taking time to go, I come through this line all the time. My name is Mark and your name is Francis. And you actually really see them and the impression and the changes that happen when you do that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was fascinating.
So you recommend it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now I've got a really hard question. All right, Robert, if you were to have dinner, lunch, and drink with somebody past or present, what would it be?
Yeah. You prepared me for this one, and I'm glad you did, because I took it real seriously. It's like, okay, if I really, really could make that happen, who would it be? And you start running through names like Jesus Christ or John F. Kennedy, or great people that you've heard about all your life. Franklin Roosevelt was a hero of Dad's, because he lived through that Depression. So all those names come through, and then my father popped into my head. And but my answer surprised you probably. My brother J.W. passed away about 9 years ago, and he was in the middle of huge things happening in his life, and I became the executor of his will. I'd love a chance to sit down and talk about his life during the 9 years when he was no longer living. Because I kind of assumed a cloak when I took over that role. So it'd be my brother J.W. And we would laugh, cuss, have scotch, and it'd be a good night.
Yeah.
That was deep, Robert. I like that. And now, Mark.
Well, and I didn't know you were going to ask this question. So
put you on the spot.
Well, yeah, and I immediately tried to figure out who that person might be. And I really, this kind of interesting talking about family. My father's still alive. He's 94 years old. And I asked him recently why he was a professor and how he ended up becoming a professor, and was kind of surprised by his answer, because he said, I just want to help people. And I found out as a graduate assistant very early on that I could help people and help people achieve more, et cetera, as a graduate assistant. And that's why I became a professor. But of course, I can which I do. I have breakfast with him and my stepmother a lot. But I think it would probably be, probably not surprising given who I am, probably Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones. Because he has appeared to be old my whole life. And now he's just really, he is old finally. But I watched a documentary about him not too long ago, and I was fascinated because he is gregarious and outgoing and friendly and all these things that I think most people probably wouldn't think that he was like that. And very grateful for all the music that he's performed and all the things. And I just think it would be fascinating for any number of reasons.
Well, this was great, gentlemen. We appreciate you coming in, talking about this, and we're going to keep talking about it. It's going to keep coming out. We'll keep circling as it keeps evolving.
As we should.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Natasha.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Atlanta Communities Real Estate Brokerage. Content shared is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered legal, financial, tax, or real estate advice. Listeners should consult with their own licensed professionals before making business or real estate decisions. Atlanta Communities Real Estate Brokerage is an equal opportunity employer and supports the Fair Housing Act.